Back the way that we started, huh? Three little heads in a box.
Yeah. Back to our roots. Jen, where are you right now?
I'm in San Francisco. Ugh, this place.
Oh,
Boy,
what are you doing
your
there?
favorite?
My favorite place on earth. Yeah.
I know. She's picking up fentanyl. You know, she dropped alcohol,
right.
but she's on the foil now. She's on the foil diet.
It's
hey,
the
wait,
truth.
we're representing 3 distinct time zones now. I'm
We
East
are.
Coast. We're Central, the preferred time zone of God, and the lethargic West Coast that Jen has taken up the slack with.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's early in this godforsaken city, so yeah, but I'm only here for one more day. I was here for a wedding over the weekend, which was wonderful and beautiful, but now I'm dealing with San Francisco things, including people using the foil all over the place around me, and most of my favorite places now being closed, and
Wait, the
a guy
foil?
on the bus who had to tell us all that he is God, and me having to then get off that bus. So it's been, a very San Francisco-like trip.
Well, so first of all, again, if God is anywhere, he's in the Central time zone. That, right, immediately you could throw that guy out. What is the foil bit? I missed that. There's like foil.
Are you not up on how to consume fentanyl?
Yeah, where have you been? All the
yeah.
cool kids are
You know
doing
what?
it.
I think this is yet another deficit in my pop culture knowledge. Is how to consume. Wait, I thought fentanyl, you laced it in all the other drugs and then accidentally killed people or something.
That
You can
also
do that.
happens. Yeah, that also happens. But you don't. But that's not how you do fentanyl. You freebase fentanyl. So normally, for like crack and stuff like that, what you do is you put a little bit on a piece of foil, you light it up, and so it smokes, and then you sometimes take a little metal or a glass straw essentially, and then just like sample off the. That's what's referred to as freebasing.
Oh, well, I know what freebasing is. I just didn't realize you freebase fentanyl. But,
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
in my
Very,
day, I don't want
very
to sound like an
powerful.
old fuddy-duddy, but back in my day, if you wanted to get kind of loose, you just soak a tampon in vodka and put it in an orifice. And now people are freebasing?
Well, that's
What is
butt
this
chugging.
stuff?
That's butt chugging. We have the whole different way to look at these things.
Yeah.
You're welcome,
yeah.
parents. The things that your kids will learn on We're Not Wrong.
I was gonna say, for anybody who listens to this with their kids, then you knew what you were getting into when you hit
Okay,
play.
this is one of my favorite jokes to do on people is to say something excruciating but do it in my sitcom dad voice. Because I could definitely play like a 90s sitcom dad. Like, I get mistaken as the dad from, I can't remember. There's some sitcom where there's a bearded guy in it. And like the other day, someone's like, "Are you that guy?" And I'm like, "Nope, he's dead. We live in the year 2024. I'm not that guy." But then doing
John
that
Ritter.
maybe John Ritter. Was it like all things are greater? I can't remember. Anyway, point is, doing unwholesome stuff at wholesome voice is to me inherently funny because people don't
Yeah.
see it coming. I go into Dick Van Dyke mode, and then I'm like, well, what would a Prince Albert do? Or whatever. I think it's funny.
Yeah. So you should do a video about how to freebase.
Yeah, I should. That'll be my TikTok intro, is how to freebase.
Yeah.
There
Well, if
is
you
a
wanna
very
learn,
popular.
I can tell you where to come, and you can come
Yeah.
to downtown San Francisco because I've seen freebasing at least 3 times I can think of off the top of my head.
Well, you can get a
2
kit.
days.
You can get a whole kit. They'll give you a kit because
Oh.
that's harm reduction. Is to give you a kit to do fentanyl.
Oh, how nice of them.
Wait,
Yeah.
can I? So I'm broadly in favor of, if not legalizing drugs, decriminalizing them, treating them as a medical problem. So like harm reduction, you're speaking my language. Why would they give you a fentanyl kit? Like, how would that, does like to test it to make sure it's? Wait, hold on. But in the thing we're testing for is fentanyl when you get coke or something.
So, and this gets into a larger conversation, but you know that oftentimes programs, especially ones that get government money, once they are in motion, they tend to stay in motion. And
Really?
you kind of always want to up your budget because otherwise, if it is stagnant or going down, you risk irrelevance. And so critics of harm reduction, specifically in the San Francisco area, would tell you that meaningful, if not effective, harm reduction programs like needle exchanges, which at the very least would precipitate the idea that you had a dirty needle,
Right.
you'd be able to bring it in, and then you could track people and
You'd mitigate
establish
the
a
risk of
relationship.
HIV or
Yeah.
hepatitis and things. Yeah, okay.
That has then expanded to the idea of free party favors because harm reduction is something that has ballooned because you can get more money the more you say that you are reducing harm. Indeed, to the point where many of its critics say it's causing harm because you are incentivizing people to come to a place where not only will you not get arrested, but the fentanyl has never been cheaper, and you have plentiful government programs to make sure that it's a good time.
So I'm totally here for this. You know,
Yeah.
as you both know, I have a back tattoo that says unintended consequences and another back tattoo that says mission creep. So I'm very much here for
exactly.
this. But were we to give a good faith explanation of the harm reduction tactics with fentanyl kits, what would they say? Like, what is the purported aim of a fentanyl kit?
The purported aim would be that you are not reusing the same thing over and over that might be diseased in some way or unsanitary. And so it's better to put clean pipes and clean foil in your hands than having you scrounge around and either use the same stuff that other people are using in case they are
But for freebasing,
diseased.
we're not talking about like blood exchange.
Injection. No.
Oh, for injections.
No, not for injections.
Oh,
Yeah.
so for freebasing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That would be the argument.
Okay. That one seems a little squirrely to me, to be honest with you.
That and Narcan. Narcan is all over. You can get Narcan all over the place, which is essentially the thing that that Uma Thurman got hit with in Pulp Fiction.
That one makes more sense to me. I know that the counter argument to Narcan is that people will be less responsible, but I don't like the idea of like withholding life-saving drugs to force people to be responsible. That strikes me as a little. I don't know that someone's going to be that hyper-logical, that far down the road. So Narcan makes sense to me to have that readily available to people.
The Narcan itself doesn't bother me. It's the Narcan in place with everything else up to and including not enforcing the laws on open air drug dealing. I think if there's one thing for which I would say let's just get on this is every day on the same places in San Francisco there are gigantic open air drug markets that seem like these are clear violations of the law. Can you have a police officer go and arrest the people that are open air drug dealing and have a gigantic line of addicts that circles the block?
Yeah. I mean, last night when I was walking back, we were at Union Square and they have a mobile police unit here. And so there were cops walking the beat and they have an office like right here. And in the corner of one of the fancy stores that had closed like an hour before, there were about 5 addicts. I mean, I don't know if they're addicts, but they're definitely doing drugs because I could see the foil, I could see the drugs, I could see all of it. And they were just doing it together. The cops were right there and no one gave a shit. And it's just not. It's not fun to walk by. It's not fun to see. There were kids around. They don't need to be learning like, hey, daddy, what are they doing over there? Oh, drugs, darling. They're doing drugs. Like, this is just, I fucking hate it here. I absolutely hate it here, and I'm excited to leave and never come back.
You'll come back. You'll be back.
I know, because I have so many friends here, and I love them, and I miss them, and I just wish that I could bring them all to Austin because I hate coming here. So,
well, based on everything I'm hearing about San Francisco, I think there's a decent chance they all will move to Austin.
God, I hope so. That would be amazing.
Well, and that's the thing is it's not like Austin doesn't have a homeless problem. Austin
not
has
like
a homeless problem, but not like that. Not like that. It is a uniquely fucked situation in San Francisco.
Yeah. Although that being said, though, I think Austin needs to think really long and hard about how not to become San Francisco, because Austin's homeless problem is very likely the beginning of something that is sliding towards a San Francisco problem. Like, it's one of those things where you want to put in the infrastructure and deal with it before it becomes really bad, because it's easier to deal with preventatively than it is to, like, I would build more like some amount of publicly owned municipal housing or something. Like, basically calculate what's the normal amount of predictable chronic homelessness, and then try to get some amount of housing to accommodate that, and then build shelters and things like that, blah, blah, blah zoning.
We God, that's a record. We got there fast. There's the idea of building more housing, for which I'm for. I am not a NIMBY. I have YIMBY tendencies when it comes to creating more housing, more stockpile. That's fine. There's a thing here in Texas about reducing mandatory lot sizes, so you'd be able to buy and build a house.
Good thing.
That would be a good thing. I don't think that solves the problem that exists in San Francisco. I think that you uniquely get to the problem of San Francisco by markets. Heaton, creating a market where fentanyl is extraordinarily cheap that brings people from all over the country, and then not enforcing any of the laws that continues that runaway train of cheap fentanyl because more consumers keep coming in, and then creating harm reduction, and I'm using air quotes there, programs that don't exactly reduce harm, that indeed are perpetuating the supernova.
I couldn't agree more that markets really do work. They drive down prices and they expand supply. Markets are magical in that capacity. So if you have a market for something you don't want, it's going to drive down prices and it's going to increase supply. That is true.
Yeah, and I just think that these are two different issues that we're talking about, because in Austin, I have homeless people. As we know, I live near quite a few bridges downtown. We have people that live under the bridge. I actually know a few of them now by name. I've never seen any of them doing any drugs. There's homelessness, and then there's the tolerance for drugs just out in the open. I mean, it hasn't happened this time yet, but down by my closest BART station, the last time I was here, there was a card table with every drug you can imagine just on the card table, just selling it on the street corner. And it was like, how is this allowed? But it is allowed. So, I mean, there are two different problems. Drugs and homelessness are not the same exact thing, although I am aware that there's
they are
crossover.
often related.
Yeah.
Often related, but not. Yeah, they are not the same issue.
Yeah, I've never seen a card table with like different kinds of mushrooms and cocaine and pills, and like this is not a thing that happens in Austin, but it happens here.
Yeah. Remind me to point out where that card table is next time I'm in town. That'd be nice.
Market and 4th.
Of course it's Market. Of course it's on Market. There's a Carl's Jr. at the Civic Center BART station that if I were to ever write a graphic novel where the denizens of hell that have risen up to Earth would meet in public, Men in Black style, and nobody would turn an eye, it is that Carl's Jr. at the Civic Center BART station. The people who work there, God bless you. The workers at Carl's Jr., you should get hazard pay. You should be given the Medal of Honor. The president should award you something. The city should award you. You should have a statue outside. That is true heroism.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
From San Francisco, California, the city by the bay.
I'm Jen Briney.
From Washington, D.C.,
I'm Andrew Heaton.
And from Austin, Texas, I'm Justin Robert Young. We're not wrong. On this edition of the program, we'll be talking about breaking news. Joe Biden and Donald Trump agreeing to debate as soon as June, and a possible sea change in how debates have been organized since 1988. Also, Democrats been busy this week. They are talking about virtualizing some of their Democratic National Convention in Chicago. All that, plus your emails. Heaton, you've been in D.C. for a couple days now. Do you have any scathing takes about our nation's capital?
Not a whole lot. I'm staying out in Arlington, so I'm going into forays in D.C. I was at Brookings yesterday. This is the first time that I've been in D.C. and I've had a car. So I lived here for 2 years previously. At no point did I ever touch an automobile. I think maybe I got in a cab one time during that period, but I was very metro heavy. Now I'm in the car. Much easier to get places quickly in a car in our nation's capital. I don't know how anybody did it prior to Google Maps, given that the layout of this city was literally designed to thwart invading troops rather than be conducive to traffic. It is the most confusing traffic system I've ever seen in my life. Thank God I have a GPS smartphone. Gotta say, the drivers here, touch impatient. Like, there is a difference between driving etiquette in Austin versus driving etiquette here. So when the light turns green, people immediately honk at you. The light has turned, like, green honk, like immediate, like I'm already moving. What's happening is I now hate you and I'm moving. So all you've done is made the world a worse place. That's it. You've just introduced hatred into the world, driver behind me, at every single intersection. So I don't like that bit, and I think we should strip D.C. of its power and redistribute most of the federal agencies throughout this United States.
Wow. So that started out as him saying he doesn't have any scathing takes, for the record, listener. That was a lukewarm take. That was a lukewarm take.
I already had that take. Yeah.
I agree with you. All of the street names in DC. There's 4 of them, and they are only separated by like a wingding character at the end of it. You never have any idea where you're going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, because it's, I mean, literally, I'm not joking about the defeating the British. There are these traffic circles throughout D.C., and the reason that they're there is not because a forward-thinking city planner went, the British have roundabouts, and that seems like a more sophisticated. That's not what happened. What happened was literally when they were designing the city, they wanted to have a 360 that they could put cannons on to fight British troops. That's why those roundabouts are in D.C. It's so we can put cannons in the middle and easily rotate them to shoot at British people. On that note, though, we haven't been invaded by Britain for over 100 years now, maybe 200 years. I don't know. I'm going to have to check the dates on this. So yeah, I guess D.C.'s doing its job.
Well, we'll see whether or not D.C. does this job well. We are going to get presidential debates this cycle, and they will happen as soon as next month, before early voting begins, or either of the candidates are officially even the nominees of their respective parties. On Twitter, President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. accepted CNN's invitation for a presidential debate on June 27th and challenged former President Donald John Trump to join. Trump accepted on Truth Social, quote, "I am ready and willing to debate Crooked Joe at the 2 proposed times in June and September. I would strongly recommend more than 2 debates and, for excitement purposes, a very large venue. Although Biden is supposedly afraid of crowds, it's only because he doesn't get them. Tell me when and I'll be there. Let's get ready to rumble."
Wait, hold on. For real, he said, "Let's get ready to rumble"?
He put it in quotes. Let's get ready to rumble, 3 exclamation points.
Okay, so I am not in favor of there being a statue of President Donald Trump. However, if a statue is ever erected of Donald Trump, I would love for "Let's get ready to rumble" to be the quote underneath his name.
By the way, Michael Buffer, who made that phrase famous, is very litigious. So I don't know if Buffer is a Trump supporter, but
can you imagine if a former president were sued in court, Justin, over some weird lawsuit involving antics that would engross the nation?
I can't believe Michael Buffer on the stand. "I would like to say that my copyright has been infringed."
I would. Any judge worth their salt would make Hulk Hogan the bailiff. Would like temporarily deputize Hulk Hogan and just have him be the bailiff for such a trial.
Notably, these debates will not be handled by the Commission on Presidential Debates, which has facilitated debates since 1988, when the League of Women Voters said that they would no longer do it. In a letter to the commission, Biden campaign chair Jen O'Malley Dillon cited several reasons that the Democrats were leaving the organization. The scheduled debates were to take place too late in the process, quote Dillon, after tens of millions of Americans had already voted, and that the model is antiquated and geared toward, quote, huge spectacles rather than, quote, good debates, and that the commission was, quote, unable or unwilling to enforce the rules during the 2020 debates when Trump famously talked over Biden and the moderator. We quote now from the letter. "We are advising you now of this decision months in advance of the dates you announced that you are planning for to enable that you avoid incurring further production and other expenses on the assumption that the Democratic nominee, President Biden, will participate. For the reasons stated above, he will not." For the record, the Republicans disavowed the Commission on Presidential Debates 2 years ago, so it was already on one leg, and now the other is cut out. The previously announced first debate by the commission would have been September 16th in San Marco, Texas. The last would have been on October 9th. The Biden campaign has suggested debates with just 2 candidates and a moderator, automatic microphone cutoffs, and no audience. And that is reportedly, this is breaking as we are recording right now, that would, we assume, that is the format for which CNN has agreed to. Biden has also proposed a vice presidential debate in July, and then, of course, the second presidential debate in September. We're still gathering on exactly who's going to decide how and when the second debate will take place. So, Jen, earlier debates, better, worse? Any other thoughts on this?
I guess the timing doesn't really matter to me. I don't know why that would be such a factor for voters, especially where we already know what the candidates are for these two parties. For me, I think the bigger news here is that the Commission on Presidential Debates has been officially cut out. I do want to correct something that was said before, because the League of Women Voters was perfectly happy to continue the debates, but the Commission on Presidential Debates itself was kind of a coup between the Democrats and Republicans in order to take over the process. And so after they had created this new commission the Democrats and Republicans controlled, then the League of Women Voters got cut out, and they, basically said, like, well, then we're not doing this anymore. But it was itself a coup to help the duopoly keep other parties out, essentially. And they have done so brilliantly. And so I am kind of happy to see the end of the Commission on Presidential Debates, because at least from this point forward, the people that are not as into news and politics as we in our audience are, they're going to be more aware of the fact that this has been rigged by Democrats and Republicans, that they're just openly determining the terms of their own debates, that there is no option for third parties unless the two candidates agree to it. If we're going to have a rigged process, I would prefer it be openly rigged so that people can be aware of what is happening. So I'm happy to see this middleman just officially gone, because when I had looked at the qualifications for how you get into the debates to begin with, when it was the commission, they were requiring that you hit thresholds in polls that were conducted by outlets like CNN, so it was always this, there was always this, you had to kind of have the permission of the media and of the duopoly to even participate. So now that's just completely out the window. So at least I feel like this is going to be more honest. I don't know if it's going to lead to better debates. I mean, having a mic cut off, so doesn't that make it more soundbitey? Like, for me, I would like to see these people go back and forth. I would like to see the questions go for 15, 20 minutes if they have to. But instead, we're going to have some moderator that none of us fucking trust cutting off the current president of the United States and the former president of the United States. I just think it's ridiculous. So as much as I'm happy that there's debates happening, because I think so many people do watch only the debates to make their decision. I think they're important. I'm glad we've stopped pretending that these are fairly chosen who's up on that stage.
I will point out that the Commission on Presidential Debates did organize a 3-candidate debate in 1992, the second year.
The very last time they did that, and the only reason they did that is that their internal polling in both camps was that he was going to be a spoiler for the other one, which is why they allowed him in.
Okay,
and why subsequently every
happened.
Single time they end up just raising the threshold above whatever they think the third-party candidate might do, as in 2016 when Gary Johnson was threatening to actually be on stage.
So if they are such loyal lackeys, why are they cut out?
Justin, I think this is a sad day for America. When I was a kid, the Republican and Democratic parties at least pretended to give a shit about debates, and now they're not even pretending. I mean, what? Can't we go back to the wholesome days when they cared enough to lie to the American people about competitive democracy and a marketplace of ideas? Now they're just doing the kabuki theater in front of our eyes. It's a very, very sad thing. Why are they doing it, Justin? Why have the middleman? This is kabuki theater. It is there to produce sound bites. The idea that I love the letter you read from the Democratic Party that the debates are no longer really about discourse. They're about getting views and sound bites and spectacle, as if the Democratic candidate and the Republican candidate just stroll into the arena and go, well, I wonder what the questions will be about. I wonder what the format will be. No one could possibly know how this will be. It's not as if we literally had a 3-month negotiation between all sides to determine whether or not the president gets to have a step stool to give him an additional 4 inches every fucking time, and whether we're going to position we're going to position him in front of a tree because that's going to look slightly better. Like the amount of choreographing that goes into this. Why bother having a fake organization pretending to be an objective steward of democracy when you can just cut them out and do this directly through the campaigns? This is the people running that were dead weight. Let them loose. They can all get jobs as lobbyists and consultants and remain barnacles and parasites on the American taxpayer.
Yeah, I think the parties just learned that there is no pushback for this. Like, we know enough about the Commission on Presidential Debates. There was no repercussions for the Democrats and Republicans locking out other parties. So, yeah, cut out the middleman. They've realized they don't need it. They don't need to pretend that these are at all fair. So,
who is the greatest victim of the Commission on Presidential Debates in your guys' mind? Who deserved to be on stage that wasn't?
Gary
Jill
Johnson?
Stein and
Because he
Gary
was gonna-
Johnson.
In what cycle? So 2016, both of that?
Yeah.
Because Gary
Why?
Johnson would have been on it, and then they changed the rules on him. So Perot actually does a great job running as a third-party candidate. Justin, you're going to have the data off the top of your head better than me. I want to say he got like 15%. It was very high, maybe 8%.
In the final vote?
In the final vote, it was high. He made a splash. He's up on the chyron. People are actually paying attention to him. And what did the presidential or the Committee on Presidential Debates do? They immediately went, oh, fuck. Next time, you have to have throughout random number they didn't think a third-party candidate could hit. And then in 2016, because the candidates are summarily unpopular with the American people, and the majority of folks are voting against a candidate rather than in favor of them, Gary Johnson, who's a pro-pot former Republican, like kind of moderate libertarian character, actually polling reasonably well, and he's going to hit that threshold. So they go, oh, shit, well, this was just a lie to begin with. What we wanted to do was create the illusion that you could actually get in. You can't get in, so we're going to change the rules on you. So I'm going to give it to Gary Johnson because he should have been on stage by their own metrics until they changed it to fuck him over.
In 2016. By the way, Ross Perot got 18.9% of the vote, and that included him quitting the race and getting back into it in the middle of it. Jen?
Yep.
I also want to add Jill Stein to that because she was on 85% of the ballots in the United States. I think the only qualification should be ballot access. If you can mathematically win and be the president of the United States based on how many ballots your name appears on, your ass should be on that stage. And so she should have qualified as well.
I agree.
So 2016 should have had four people on stage for those three debates.
Correct. And I think this year, because whoever the libertarian candidate's going to be, that person will also have ballot access. So I think that should just be a guaranteed spot as well. If you're on the ballot, you should be able to debate.
How many ballots should the threshold be?
If you can mathematically win the Electoral College.
Okay.
If you got the birthday cake party or whatever, and you're only on 6 ballots in the country, and even if you won all of them, you could not get a sufficient amount of electoral votes. That is a interesting and potentially cute candidacy, but it is not one which is even possible mathematically. But if you were on a sufficient amount of ballots that if you won them, you would win the presidency, you should be on the stage.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick up for the Commission on Presidential Debates here because I think what we saw is that there is tremendous pressure on them, and ultimately they were a nuisance. And so what we have seen is that all of the dirty deeds for which you guys are pointing out, and I don't disagree with it, although I think that you guys are being a little bit, absolutist in this. I don't think that the vast majority of Americans really give a shit whether or not Gary Johnson or Jill Stein were on stage. But I agree with your push for it, that in general, them just trying to do a basic job of playing referee between these two warring gangs was too much for both of them. And so now they are tossed to the ash heap, and both of them, both the Republicans and Democrats, are going to find out what it's like to organize a television series with each other, which I still think there's a high possibility that this thing doesn't happen for the exact reasons that you pointed out, Heaton, that it was thankless work to try to go back and forth between these two gang lords and say, no, you don't get to have this, but you do get to have that, and let's do a trade-off where you get this and you get that. Now they're going to go back and forth between each other, and I don't know whether or not it's going to happen, despite all the posturing. Jen?
So I think that back when it was the League of Women Voters, and these are the rules. There wasn't any like, oh, Mr. Trump, would you like to stand on a box so that you look bigger than Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden? Like, there wasn't this ass kissing. They were the rules. They show up. They debate. It was a truly independent organization that was running those. So they took it over, and that was the Commission on Presidential Debates. And that was created by Democrats and Republicans. And so they did cater to the candidates. And now we've gotten so far that even that's too much for these pampered candidates. So I think just knowing that history and like the progression of this, it does make sense to me that they're, that they don't like the middleman that they created because it has too many rules for them. If they had to deal with an actual independent entity that was making the rules and saying, this is what they are, you show up, you debate, and like you have no say in this, that would be a different situation. The commission was never that. So it doesn't surprise me that the man babies just want to have their own thing where they can call all the shots. So yeah, Heaton, you're up.
Thank you, Justin. I want to go explore what the new setup will look like. So to be clear, both candidates have agreed to a debate. Let's get ready to rumble, I believe is the quote from our former president.
Oh, by the way, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., the president of the United States, who wanted a more dignified situation without the spectacle that the Presidential Debate Commission was fostering, offered this challenge by quoting Dirty Harry and saying, "Make my day."
All right, you know what? Okay, now I take back what I said about not wanting a Trump statue. Now what I want is I want a Trump and Biden statue that are flipping each other off, and those are the quotes. And there'll be a little bench
Make my
in the middle
day.
that
Let's get ready to rumble.
People can get married at or something like that. So in terms of the new format that they're going to do, in a moment, Justin, I'm curious as to why you think that Biden doesn't want an audience. But before we do that, I'll add, I don't know that the mic cutoff thing is going to work. So the idea, like they're thinking back to Chris Wallace, who, by the way, I felt very sorry for during the 2020 debates. I thought I like Chris Wallace. I thought Chris Wallace was a good moderator. I thought he was putting up with a bull in a china shop. If I were in charge of the presidential debates, I would have just given Chris Wallace like either a super soaker or some shot collars, like with dogs that he could use to try to get the debate candidates in line. Just giving him a mic cutoff, you guys know what's going to happen with Trump, right? If you just have a mic cutoff, he's just going to shout louder.
Yeah.
It's going to be even more of a thing. So I don't think that's going to work at all. Why do you think that Biden doesn't want an audience? I would think that an inveterate politician would like having an audience, so that they would in the Kabuki theater, they'll have a 50-50 split. So why not?
Because they will not trust each other to staff the audience. They will each of them will believe that their people will be more uncouth, so it will come off as one person is dominating the other person. And so Biden would rather not have anybody. Now, the Trump campaign, Trump would like to do it in run it like the Taylor Swift tour and just go from stadium to stadium and do 4 nights per city, because he believes, and I think that there's ample evidence to show that he's got more on the ground enthusiasm. He can pack a room of just randos. Forget doling out tickets for a 1,000 seat venue. He could fill the Rose Bowl if they actually go ahead and debate in there. So that's what he wants. The Biden campaign wants this to be as anodyne on a television set as possible, which kind of goes back to the original debates, the 1960 debates, which were all held in television studios. So
I think that they've got a point on the making sure that the other team actually doesn't oversaturate them with their own supporters, because one of the hardest things about the political climate right now is it's so difficult to figure out whether people are pro-Democrat or pro-Republican. You'll know people years, and it'll just never come up. It's not like every fucker in the country has a button or a hat or constantly fucking talks about it when you sit down to eat macaroni at a buffet. How would they ever know?
The people that are in those debates are not real people. They are campaign people. They're connected to politics in some way. It's been, I don't know if we've ever had a debate where just the general audience, it's like tickets go on sale and they sell
Ken
out.
Bone is the one person.
But those are farmed.
Person.
They have to go and find normies so they can put them up on stage like a prop. Jen?
Well, yeah, when I think about the two different audiences, I do suspect that the Biden people would be more refined and willing to sit there and listen, and the MAGA people, my friends showed me a video yesterday of MAGA people wearing diapers, because that is somehow in support of Trump. These people love him so much that they will make absolute asses out of themselves. And so you could see them showing up to the debate and hooting and hollering and being loud and crazy. And I just don't know of any Biden supporters that love him that much that they're going to outshout the MAGA people. So if I were Biden, I wouldn't want to try to compete with that, because I don't know where you find the Biden voters that are that excited to scream on his behalf.
Half of the audience would be a monster truck rally, and half of the audience would be a really preachy PTA meeting, and Andrew Heaton would not be there.
No, well, I mean, this is normally what happens at debates, and it follows a principle that I like to do when I sow chaos at the Hall of Presidents in Disney World, and this is a free tip for everybody, if you're at the Hall of Presidents, pick a random president in like the first 100 that nobody has anything to say about. Everybody in your group agree that you're going to cheer really loud for
Van
that
Buren.
one. Exactly. Woo! Because it saturates the crowd with the idea that, oh no, we cheer for our favorite president. And you just let that live until it goes further and further and further into the process. When you get to presidents that people know, it usually starts around Nixon, where people will start cheering or booing. But by the end of it, as we get into the modern era, the last time I did that, they had to turn on not only the God mic, but a hot lamp to shame people and just say, no cheering, by the time that it got to Obama. But that happens with debates, where somebody will say something and you'll get like a woo. And now the other side, fearing that their guy looks like shit for not getting a woo, will go woo woo a little bit more, and then by the end of it, everyone's at each other's throats and knifing and
Didn't they? I want to say in
crazy.
2020 though, didn't they have a debate where like the rule was the audience couldn't clap or cheer?
The audience is never allowed to clap in those debates, and
But
usually
they
it's
do.
not. Yeah, usually it's not that big of a deal. I think that the Biden people are kind of being babies on this. Like, you could get an audience of folks that are essentially just on the campaign, and they all agree this is just not a thing that you do. But I don't know. I think that's also their pretense for leaving the Commission on Presidential Debates, is that the debate people didn't do their job, that they were, again, unwilling or unable to enforce the rules.
I think
I'm
the
thinking it
Biden
makes-
people wish that it was 2020 again and they could just hide their candidate for the entire campaign season and just be like, COVID. Just
But they're
win.
debating. But they're debating now, and that
Yeah.
was the last time we talked
But they
about
want
this
to
was the
control
rumor.
the terms. I think you're right that they
Well,
want
they
to
are.
control it.
They are.
Yeah.
They are controlling the terms, and
Yeah.
that they're trying to get first mover advantage, because Trump has been out here for the last few months saying, anytime, anywhere, any place, I will debate you. He's brought like empty podiums up on stage to demonstrate that Joe Biden is ducking him, and so the Biden campaign,
If
I think
Donald
wisely,
Trump ever teams up with Carrot Top, game over.
it's over.
That Carrot Top is the finest prop comic of our generation.
There's got to be pictures of the two of them together.
You know what? Trump with Gallagher, although Gallagher's dead, it's now his brother
Gallagher.
pretending to be Gallagher. But Trump with Gallagher would be a hell of a rally.
Yeah. That would be fun. I would even attend that.
I would, if part of his shtick was a sledgehammer watermelon, would want to go, would want to see.
100%. But you know he would put Joe Biden's face on that watermelon. It would be an
Oh, yeah.
act of violence, for sure.
Yeah.
I would still go.
Can you
but-
imagine the CNN cycle? A President Trump assassinates Joe Biden on stage.
Yeah, they would lose their minds.
But this is happening early, and so Jen, let me point this out though. Yeah, it is early, and yes, we do technically know who these candidates are going to be, but we don't for real know. Like, there is a mechanism by which the candidates that are going to debate will not be the candidates. It's highly unlikely. And we're going to talk about how stage managed the Democrats want to keep their processions in
Yeah.
our second segment. But it is possible. It's possible that these guys are not the actual candidates.
It's true, but didn't you say the second one's supposed to be in September, which would be after the conventions?
It would be the second one. Yeah, it would be in September. So yeah, that would be after the convention. So the first one would be before both of them, and I don't know where the VP debate would go.
Well, I mean, I think this is also good for the parties because if, I don't know, let's say Joe Biden falls asleep in the middle of the debate and they have to replace him at the convention, like they still have time. So it's kind of a good test
I have
run.
enough faith in the Democratic Party's pharmaceutical wizards that Biden will be
dope.
juiced the fuck up
Well,
during that
that's-
debate.
Adderall, good for
That's
hyper
I know,
children
he-
and sleepy presidents.
He's going to be butt chugging Adderall. If I were coaching Donald Trump, far be it from me to tell somebody who is so eloquent and charming any kind of debate tips, but I would actually just let Joe talk. I would do
Yeah.
the opposite of what he did in the previous debates, where he was attack, 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 and when you're done attacking, attack some more. I would let Joe talk, because if there's one thing, Joe at the State of the Union, when he's jacked up on whatever crank Jason Statham was on in those movies, like that's one thing. But he's reading with that. This is going to be him talking off the top of his head. And when he's angry talking off the top of his head, you get the like El Sisi is the president of Mexico stuff, where, like put one of those in a debate, it's a bad thing for him. Two of them, and now, that was the only thing that got Jon Stewart mad at Joe Biden, was him being publicly confused about stuff. And there's a real risk here, because it's going to be an hour of him talking off the top of his head.
Yeah.
If Trump really wanted to, like, cause a stir in that debate, or I'll back up. The only time Trump has ever made me go, wait, what? Is when Trump gets calm and nice, because he is normally monster truck rally, ringleader, firing pistol in the air, smashing watermelons with a sledgehammer. So in the rare instances where he's doing a public address and he comes out and he's calm and he's dignified, I go, what the fuck is happening right now?
Yeah.
So if he were to do a debate like that, where he was just really calm and gave Biden enough rope to hang himself, and then was like, look, I was there for 4 years, and I can tell you, like, there's so much corruption in there, and I'm blah, 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 blah. Like, I think that would be very powerful, as opposed to what I think will happen, which is him, like, being cut off and then walking over to Biden's podium to shout into
And
Biden's
start
podium.
talking into his mic. Yeah.
I think that's what's going to happen.
Well, I also don't understand why they believe they're only being the two warring gangs and a profiteering network is going to incentivize more rule following.
Yeah.
Like the fact that there's no middleman, no matter how odious, their reputation might be, even if they were just lackeys, there's a, worth to that membrane, because you can blame the middleman as opposed to walking off. I still think there is a high chance that this does not happen, because the details that need to be hashed out on stuff like this are going to be, fought over tooth and nail.
Yeah. They're like, listen, Mr. Trump, we're going to let you have a bullhorn. You can't have an inflatable dildo. That is not acceptable. You can't do that. And Mr. Biden, we're okay with you having somebody with cue cards off to the side, but we can't strap you into the chair like FDR to keep you from falling over at one point. Like, you're going to have to, this could fall apart.
But it also probably means we get a VP pick from Trump sooner rather than later. That
What's the smart money there, Justin? Is it our man, Doug Burgum?
Tap dance for a second. I can actually pull up the odds here.
Okay, so Jen, help me with this.
While you pull it up, I have a question. We've already done, like, if you were Trump, what would you do to Biden? If you're Biden, how would you beat Trump in the debate?
You would hope that he does exactly what he does in 2020. And the best line that Joe Biden had during the entire campaign was, will you just shut up, man? Will you just shut up, man? It encapsulated the world's opinion on Donald Trump. He was acting like a chaos agent during a time where everybody was on edge because it was COVID, and just going on and on and on, running over. I thought he was winning. I thought Trump was winning that debate up through the first 10 minutes because I didn't think Biden was doing well. And then Trump just kept talking, and Biden hit him with the big one-liner, will you just shut up, man? Boom. Didn't matter what happened after that. That's all anybody was going to remember. Trump be loud, Biden be calm. Biden is on our side. He is stepping in during Thanksgiving when your crazy uncle won't shut up. That's exactly who Joe Biden wanted to be.
Biden ran a temperamental campaign. Like, I don't really remember what like there's been lots of policies that Biden has done in office, but I don't remember what he was campaigning on policy-wise, because he wasn't campaigning on policies. Yeah, I feel like the big push of the campaign was that guy's crazy, and I am a return to stability and normalcy. I am the adult in the room. So it makes sense to me that Biden would want to not have an audience, because you don't want to frame a debate to where it's going to play to the skills of your opponent. So monster truck rally, best possible situation for Donald Trump, but like three people at a table that are being like quiet and dignified, that can't, or trying to be, that can't, run off the volume. That makes much more sense, because then Biden looks like he's in his element, and he's the guy that's at the Senate meeting that can sit at a table across from a person and have a conversation with him, and Trump's getting huffy and getting angry and stuff. Yeah, I think that would be the smart move for him.
Here's the problem with Biden. Biden did an interview with Yahoo, specifically Yahoo Finance, this week. They gave him the rundown on why people don't believe the economy is good. And Joe Biden got snippy and was like, no, the economy's great. None of these polls that show negative sentiment about the economy, they're not real. We've created so many jobs. We actually have an amazing economy. If that's the Joe Biden that shows up on stage, then Donald Trump screaming at him might be welcomed by America, because poll after poll after poll shows that somebody wants to yell at Joe Biden. The American voter, a large selection of the American voters want to yell at Joe Biden specifically about the economy.
Yeah, he doesn't think that we're mad at him. It's like, dude,
no,
believe it. We are mad at you. So,
here's the top 5 on Predict It for the Republican VP. Number 5, Elise Stefanik from the House. Marco Rubio, senator from Florida. Number 4. Tied for 2 is your boy, Doug Birdman.
Doug Birdman. Go Birdman.
And J.D. Vance, freshman senator from Ohio.
Which would be a fascinating pick if he went that way. That would be really interesting.
The number 1, Tim Scott. Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina. Well, it shows that at least if we're reading the tea leaves here, I do believe that we should look at Donald Trump's VP pick as very strategic. He was very strategic with Mike Pence. He had a hole to fill in his coalition. He picked an evangelical because of it. We had always thought that the theory of the case for Trump was get suburban women. And so that's why you heard the Kirsty Noem. That's why this is pre-dog shooting. This is why Elise Stefanik is number 5, because you would want somebody that can go into the suburbs and speak to these women voters that they believe would turn the election. But now, and especially when you look at some of the polls that came out this week, where Biden is collapsing in the Sun Belt, like he is down 11 in Nevada, 9 in Arizona, 8 in Georgia. The thing that all those states have in common, Black and Latino voters. Yeah. And that seems to be who is turning against Joe Biden. If that's the case, then Donald Trump saying, oh, well, we'll have a Black vice president, and that just this is the time to kick that leg out from the stool of the Democratic coalition, for which they might not recover from. I mean, they have not run without gigantic majorities in the Black vote since 1964. Yeah. So to try to replace that would be really hard if some of these polls are correct, and I'm skeptical of them.
And Tim Scott is pretty likable. Like, I've seen Tim Scott speak quite a few times, and there's just nothing hateable about him. Like, I mean, if you disagree with his policies, that's something. But as a person, like, he's kind of hard not to like. So I like the pick for Trump, even though it scares me, because it's a good pick.
Hey, so if he went with Marco Rubio, how would they square that constitutionally? You can't have 2 candidates from the same state, and they're both registered in Florida.
Rubio's too opinionated. They'll hate each other in 10 seconds.
Donald Trump almost got Marco Rubio out of politics. Marco Rubio was going to take a job with the Miami Dolphins after he lost his presidential bid against Trump, and then Trump talked him into
Wait, was he going to be like
Senate.
A quarterback or a lineman? What was he going to do exactly?
I don't know. Just be Marco Rubio. Be butthurt. So I've actually heard some stuff behind the scenes on this. It would probably mean Marco Rubio would establish D.C. as his legal residence, or wherever he lives in the Washington
great position
area.
For an outsider campaign.
Candidate
or running from Washington D.C.
Or you essentially
could Trump
you push it.
Yeah, Trump's a New
Trump,
Yorker.
Because
No,
Trump's got
no.
property
No.
in New York.
He would more likely, he's out of New York. He would more likely say that he lives in Bedminster, New Jersey, because he splits his time now between Bedminster in the summer and Mar-a-Lago in the winter. So
okay.
it would probably, if he was going to move, it would be New Jersey. Or they just say, hey, we got lawyers, prove it's not constitutional. We're both from Florida. Nobody gives a shit.
Okay.
That would
I
be
don't
a
think
Trump
he'll pick
play.
Rubio, though.
I don't think
Tim
he's picking
Scott
Rubio.
wouldn't have seen that coming.
Tim Scott is, the favorite thing that Trump loves to say about Tim Scott, and I heard him say it in person in South Carolina, is that Tim Scott is better talking about Trump than talking about himself. And that
that's
is
the
something
important
that
thing,
is
isn't
a good thing. He's a good man. Doesn't like to talk about himself. Doesn't. Talks about me. Says wonderful things about me.
And Rubio doesn't. There's an ego in that guy. So I think
Rubio might be a person. And Trump doesn't want
These
another
days-
person on the
these
ticket. He
days
wants an
he is-
extension of Trump.
These days, Marco is
little
more
Marco.
along the lines. Although the other side of that is if they win, that means Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, gets to pick who Marco Rubio's replacement would be, which is a little intra-Republican
Have they not
intrigue.
made up? Weren't there those wonderful photos of Trump and DeSantis mouth kissing on stage or whatever?
So, no, not on stage. They had one meeting together that was brokered by a donor. I had Kimberly Leonard of Politico on PX3. She covers the Florida beat, I think, as good as anybody. Her and Mark Caputo, who I think is now at the Bulwark. They're fantastic. And she basically said this was a very fragile detente for donors. That DeSantis says he will raise money. He does not want to be disloyal to the charge. He did endorse Trump immediately after dropping out, but there is no love lost between the staffs of DeSantis and Trump. There's a lot of bad blood between those two camps specifically.
But Doug Bergman, though.
Doug Birdman, he would be essentially the closest to the suburbs saying, okay, do you guys want Mitt Romney? You can have a Mitt Romney after I'm done. I'm going to do 4 more years, and then you can have your down home, made a lot of money, competent technocrat. If that's what you boys want, then you'll have it. You just vote for me, and then President Birdman is only a heartbeat away from the presidency, and he's going to be the front runner when it comes to 2028. You can finally have your Mitt Romney. That would be the pitch there. But I do think we're going to get a name sooner rather than later.
J.D. Vance would be the exact opposite of that. J.D. Vance would be Trump saying, we are the populist party. We are going full throttle populist on this, which would be a fascinating turn of events. Because, you go back to Romney, who you just mentioned ago, Romney-Paul Ryan was about as close, I think, as we've had in modern history to a, Rockefeller Republican Libertarian ticket. You've got Romney on the one hand, who's the establishment moderate technocrat Republican. You've got Paul Ryan, who's the policy whiz-bang Libertarian-leaning type guy. So J.D. Vance would be just a complete rebuke of that, where the Republican Party would go, no, we are not establishment, we are not libertarian, we are not Rockefeller, we are populist, blue collar, all of that.
Yeah, although J.D. Vance is not. Yes, he wrote Hillbilly Elegy. Yes, he comes from a very poor part of the country. He has not been poor in a very long time.
Well, neither's Trump, but he's still positioning himself as a
He is.
populist candidate.
He is.
I mean,
where
the reality and the
Vance,
rhetoric are different in these.
Where J.D. Vance gives you an advantage is that he said really nasty shit about Trump back in 2016, and he can essentially be, hey, I'm the roadmap. Disaffected voters, subscribers to the Dispatch, subscribers to the Bulwark, allow me to be your map. here's my thought on all this. Here are the things that matter to me. Here's why. I'm going to tell you thumb and forefinger, place over nose, squeeze as hard as you can, hit the button, and congratulations, this man will be out of your life forever if you just vote now because you don't want Biden. That Biden is specifically odious to you.
I wouldn't think J.D. Vance would be good for a bulwark dispatch crowd. I think that
He's the closest they get. The closest that would ever get that position is him because he does have a history of trashing Trump, and that is on the record.
Yeah,
and
but
Trump acknowledges
didn't he go 180 on that in the last, like when he was actually running for Senate?
Yeah.
We went 180 on it, yeah.
Yeah, but again, it's like, look, there's a good chance that Nikki Haley's going to speak at the RNC. There's if they want the best RNC they can, they're going to need to at least speak to that voter, the voter that hates Donald Trump, but is very scared about Joe Biden, scared about where the economy's going, scared about the spending, scared about the immigration stuff, and scared about the competency, especially with foreign policy, where our Secretary of State was playing Keep On Rockin' in the Free World in Kyiv last night.
Nice.
So Anthony Blinken playing guitar.
Economy, I'm up here in D.C., and I'm doing some stuff with Reason, and 6 years ago, we did a Carl Sagan. It didn't do that well, weirdly enough. We did a Carl Sagan parody video. I know, right? Gold, right? Everybody's always talking about Carl Sagan, right? So we did a Carl Sagan
Who
parody
isn't
video.
on Sagan Talk?
Right, exactly. I put on a turtleneck. It was we were parodying Sagan's science-y kind of Neil deGrasse Tyson stuff. It was called Our Amazing Debt. And I come out and I'm like, you are made of stardust and debt. We did this whole thing. That was the national debt was $16 trillion, or no, $14 trillion when we made that video. We thought it was crazy. $14 trillion of national debt. Could you imagine? It's $34 trillion today. It's gone up by $20 trillion. And by the way, I don't think Biden or Trump are going to make a dent in that. I don't think either of them really gives a shit about that.
No.
So just be aware that the economy will eventually crash and burn, regardless of which two major party candidates you want to put in office.
There we go. That's a nice little cherry on top.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/we're-not-wrong. We might eventually only be taking buttons and pins because all money is worthless, but we'll still be taking all of your donations at patreon.com/we're-not-wrong. And this week, because you always get something for your money, you get a bonus episode for your money. And we always save the most interesting topics, the exciting variety topics.
A lot of porn.
For the Patreon. Use porn, AI. Nope. This time, break out the Cheddar Bay biscuits, possibly for the last time, as Red Lobster is collapsing. We will talk about chain restaurants in the age of decline on patreon.com/we're-not-wrongs episode this week. Let's talk about the DNC, for which we will all be attending. I don't know how long I will be attending it, but we will all be there at some point. The DNC is in Chicago, and the Democratic Party is facing significant challenges from both internal dynamics and external pressures. With memories of the 1968 convention in Chicago looming, there's a concerted effort to prevent similar scenes this year, particularly as protesters plan to demonstrate against President Joe Biden's policy, specifically his stance on the war in Gaza. The party is considering leveraging strategies from the 2020 virtual convention to minimize potential disruptions. These include moving certain convention activities like rules and platform votes out of the arena or handling them in advance, possibly at a different location, such as McCormick Place. Politico reports that the DNC is also potentially moving the roll call of delegates to a videotaped package like in 2020, so they might avoid a hot mic situation. The alignment between the city's administration and the protesters adds another layer of complexity because Chicago's mayor, Brandon Johnson, known for his roots in activism and a history with the Chicago Teachers Union, has shown sympathy toward protesters, posing a unique challenge in managing city security and protest activities effectively. The dynamic is further complicated by Johnson's strained relationship with Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. This all echoes past political tensions and affects the coordination necessary for a convention that would go off like a coronation the way that the major parties love it. The DNC strategy does involve a balance of maintaining tradition for the need of control over the event's narrative with a thin, thin political balance barreling toward them in November. Jen, what do you think? Hybrid convention. Is this going to stem the possibility of a 1968 redo?
I don't think so. But when I see the cowardice in the Democratic Party in this, it gives me some hope that they actually are nervous about the protests, because they keep saying that they're not. But as I watch the press conferences, anytime Israel and Gaza is brought up, Jake Sullivan or who's that weasel that's usually for the State Department? Looks kind of like Kushner. Who is this douche? Whatever. Whenever it's brought up, they are so defensive. And so, like, Joe Biden can say they're not nervous about the protests, but they clearly are. So, as someone who really, really wants this war in Gaza to stop and wanted it to stop months ago, I think the protests are clearly having an effect. They're freaking out. They should be, because there's a lot of people that are more angry than the Biden administration seems to think is real about that situation. He said, the latest one, our red line is don't go into Rafah. They go into Rafah. Here's $1 billion worth of weapons.
They were already in Rafah. When he said that that's the red line, it's like they're already there. Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, none of it makes any sense. And I don't think that they seem to be... They're not publicly aware of how angry we are, but it shows that at least privately within their own club, they are afraid of us ruining their 4-day commercial, and I welcome every last bit of their concern. So, I actually kind of love this story, because it just means that they're nervous, and they should be.
Are you excited you're going to be on the ground for it?
Fuck yeah. Like, let's go. Like, riots. I am there for this. Like, I'm going as a journalist. I'm not going to participate in any of it, but I am. Mm-hmm. Yes. Like, I would love to see the people show up and tell Biden how unhappy we are in a way that he can't ignore it. He can't ignore it at the DNC. So, let's go. And the delegates are members of the party. So you can't kick them out. You can keep us peons out, but the actual delegates, that's what they're afraid of. And that makes me even happier, because there are people within the actual party in their machine that are unhappy too. And they're trying to silence them as well. It's just like the desperation of this move. It speaks a lot to what the actual powerful people are thinking. And I love that they're afraid. It's exactly what we want.
Don't get too sure of the fact that they won't be able to kick people out. They have ever since the 60s invented a lot of reasons to kick people out, even if they are delegates. And you are right. Some of these delegates are uncommitted from those votes during the primaries. There are people that are specifically going to be inside the building that were sent there by a protest vote, which will be very, very interesting to see, because it's not like they are beholden to anybody that can say that they are pledging their delegates to somebody else. Even Bernie Sanders, with the Hillary Clinton thing, he had a weasel word for it, so he didn't actually pledge them, but he said that they stood in support or something like that. So at the very least, there was a narrative harmony there. There's nobody to ollie oxen free those delegates with uncommitted. It's just a roving gang of angry.
And there's dozens of them, I believe. I mean, it's not a majority, obviously, but it's enough to be loud.
It's enough to attract the attention of a lot of journalists who will want their opinion on things, which is where Jen will almost assuredly be.
Absolutely.
Heaton, do you think that this is cowardice, as Jen said?
Wait, have we heard back from your contact at the blah-blah-blah? Can I get in? Am I going to work for Jen yet?
I haven't heard from them, but...
We are not officially... We have been provisionally credentialed. We are still in the process of getting officially. Like, I had to submit a headshot and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Okay. All right.
But you could be where the riot is.
Yeah.
Well,
you can be
I would
our
actually
riot
rather
reporter.
be there.
Yeah.
No, I would love that. And on top of that, I feel like in any riot, I'm the first guy that gets punched. Like, regardless of what the riot is about, don't I just look like I comport myself as, I am not of you people, but look, I've got a microphone.
Just you and the window to Panera Bread just needs to break immediately.
Yep, absolutely. The point of these things, Jen, is for you to eat your vegetables. The point is for party leadership to make a decision, and then for the people to enthusiastically champion that decision, but in a way that makes it look like it actually came from the people rather than the party leadership. So, my position on these parties in general is I don't have a problem with a tightly controlled party if we're going to do it in a system where there are multiple parties. So like in the United Kingdom, which is a functional democracy, blah blah blah, they've got tightly controlled
Parliamentary.
parties. Yeah, parliamentary democracy. Like they don't. I mean, they don't have primaries over there. You the Conservative Party of Torrington upon Shrewsbury Dingle will go, Mitch is a good one. Or not Mitch. Warwick's a good one. We should have him stand as our candidate this year. Like, no one. They just like 6 people. Like, literally, it's a smoky backroom deal minus the smoky backroom. It's a tea shop or something. I'm fine with that if there's multiple parties that you're selecting from. When we're going to have the system that we have here, where we have 2 parties, one more than North Korea, and that is what everybody's participating in. At that point, it needs to be a big, sloppy, messy, democratic, chaotic mess. And so, which I'm also fine with. If you want to have a really big, this is the people speaking type environment where you have input from it, also good. What I don't want is to have your cake and eat it too, where you have a tightly controlled party that's pretending to be a populist party. I don't like that bit. So I like this. And also, just kind of anytime you can make the party sweat, I enjoy it. So if we're just turning up the thermostat by 10 degrees, terrific.
Well, this is them trying to furiously stop anybody from turning down the thermostat.
They're trying to, this is controlled democracy where this is years and years ago now, but it was such a fun moment when Villanueva, who was the rising star within the Democratic Party back in 2012, mayor of Los Angeles, having just solved all the problems in that wonderful city.
Yep.
Was on the dais, and his job was to bang the gavel over the most just easy anodyne procedural thing in the world, which was the Democratic Party just part of our provision is we believe that America is a nation that likes God or something like that.
This was ratifying the platform, which is pretty much the only thing that still remains contentious at these conventions.
And he like the bit where he was up there for was something. It was one nation under God. It was something that really ought to be immediately several very dedicated ideologues in the audience were like, well, no, separation of church and state. So they're like, no! And just the look at the guy's eyes of, we're going to do this one more time. Yeah. And just tried it 2 or 3 times where you could just see him telegraphing, guys, you're not supposed to be thinking right now. You're supposed to be applauding what we already came up with. And that disconnect was delicious. So, I don't, I look forward to stacking and being in the riot.
So the conventions used to be messy. We essentially outsourced the messiness to primaries. Everything that now gets spread over anywhere between, this time it was short. It was only a month and a half functionally, but can often last as long as 3 or 4 months. We spread out all the hatred that normally happens at the conventions over that period of time. And that happens because of JFK and then Jimmy Carter. All those reasons why the conventions themselves are not the knife fight that they used to be. What still remains contentious is the platform, which is still ugly to this day in both parties. And the most diehard people show up to those and argue for their causes. And then, as you pointed out, the ratification of the platform happens at the convention itself. So they've already separated all of the arguing about the platform outside of the convention, and then they just have everybody hopefully take a voice vote and say on these various positions, we all support, hooray, we're all on the same team. Now you move forward. You have a template to run as a Democrat when you run for office anywhere that you go. That's what the brand stands for. What happened in 1968 is you still had a very chaotic situation, and you had actual floor fights, like fists, that then also spilled out into a riot outside in Chicago. It's unlikely in this scenario that we will get fist fights on the floor. It is more likely that the worst case scenario for the Democrats is a split screen of Joe Biden talking and buildings being burned in Chicago. That is the more likely nightmare scenario, because 1968, the Democrats didn't win. They were seen as a party that was totally out of control, that was bringing violence and crime to America. And even at their own convention, they couldn't stop people from lighting buildings on fire. And so what the Democrats want to do is, A, eliminate as much time that people can have cameras on in the building as possible in case there's a floor fight, in case somebody gets punched. And then on the other side, remove any opportunity for a hot mic. So what they were doing with the roll call is, normally you go around the arena and it's the person that leads the delegation from Oklahoma, and they say, "From the home of Andrew Heaton, Oklahoma supports Joe Biden." That's normally what happens. It's usually carried live, at least by the 24-hour networks. And they want to eliminate that because they don't want anybody to get a wild hair up their ass and be a progressive hero for the rest of their lives by saying, we support Gaza. Like that's, they want to eliminate that. So what they want to do is,
I will be genuinely sorry if that happens, because that is, I think, the only part of the conventions that I find remotely touching rather than sick and disgusting. So like in 2016, Bernie Sanders, who I am unlikely to vote for, was, had a lot of delegates, and one of the delegates that was empowered, I don't imagine he was a delegate, but somehow they got Bernie Sanders' brother to come over from England. Bernie Sanders' brother is active in Green Party politics in England, and came over, and there was just a really touching moment where his brother was able to say that probably Vermont, or possibly New York, I don't know where he was slipped in with, is endorsing Bernie Sanders. And there was just this very nice moment where he was like, our parents would be so proud of what you've accomplished, and you could see this wonderful human connection between them. That was one of the few moments I liked of the 2016 election. I would hate for that to go away.
Well, it wouldn't. It would just be a slickly
televised
pre-produced video thing, which is what they did last time.
It's
so
a bunch
funny.
of Oklahomans in cowboy hats on, like
basically
with wheat fields behind us and the oil derricks, and
there was a thing,
like a
and
chef last time where it was
it was in Rhode Island where they had a bunch of calamari, and so that's what, and that it's Democratic talking points that the journalists are just repeating because that's where they got the story. It's like, we all remember the super fun time that the Rhode Island guy had calamari, and it's like, nobody fucking remembers that. Like, no. Shut up.
I did not remember any of that. Yeah. The other fun thing about the article that we read in prep for this for Politico was the amount of shade that was being thrown between individual members. So, I don't know who wrote the Politico article, but there was a lot of, the mayor of Chicago clearly fucking hates this other guy, and that guy hates that guy. And whoever was they're literally they're giving quotes from the other person. So it's the mayor of Chicago as quoted by guy who hates him, which is
the governor,
JB
Pritzker. And that also mirrors 1968 when Richard Daley, the mayor of Chicago, was like, "Nah, bring it on. We'll stop these protesters right in their streets. Come here, Abby Hoffman. Bring your yippies. We'll crush your skulls." They didn't. It was a embarrassment that we're still talking about in 2024.
Yeah, I just think it's indicative of everything that's problematic with the Democratic Party, where instead of actually addressing the issues that their voters have, you were talking before about this is where they solidify the platform. What platform? What are you running on?
Yeah.
What are you telling us you're going to do for us? Because right now, all I'm seeing out of the Biden administration is, we are doing great and you're stupid if you don't think so.
Yes.
But they haven't promised anything for the future. And now, instead of coming up with that platform and telling us this is what we're going to sell to you, instead of that, they're telling us this is how we're going to silence you people because you don't understand. It's just everything that we hate about them is just coming into a giant event.
The Democrats are the eat your vegetables party. This is one of the big problems that I saw with Hillary Clinton back in 2016 was they're like, shut up and eat your vegetables. We've made this decision. Sit down. This is going to be good for America. We know you don't like her, but it doesn't matter. Just eat your vegetables. And weirdly, shut up and eat your vegetables versus hey, cotton candy fentanyl
I know.
was just more compelling to a lot of Americans in that election.
We're going to end up with Trump again. We just are. And I just kind of feel like if this is where we're headed, I like the idea of it being really messy for the Democrats, kind of like if we burn, you burn with us type of deal. Because that's where this looks like it's headed for me. I mean, I don't see any excitement for Joe Biden, and I don't see any of their steps making us any more excited to vote for this man. If anything, I'm getting angrier and angrier by the day.
Everybody that I've listened to, so I do think that there was a big kind of decision gate event moment that happened with these New York Times Siena polls for whatever reason, that these were just this like sign that Joe Biden, whatever surge he had coming out of the State of the Union, he did close the gap a little bit, is kind of over, and that we're seeing larger, bigger, deeper problems with his reelection case. So I listened to the right side of the aisle, but then on the left side of the aisle, James Carville is like, he was reacting because Donald Trump had an event in New Jersey, Wildwood, New Jersey, which is the Jersey Shore, but it's essentially Philadelphia. That's where a lot of people from Philadelphia spend time. And Trump said that there was 100,000 people. I don't know if there were 100,000 people, but the Democratic media or Democratic leaning media was like, oh, how embarrassing. He only had 50,000 people at his event. And James Carville's like, what the fuck are you talking about? What are you? He had 50,000 people at an event in New Jersey, which has not voted for a Republican since Chris Christie. Like, what are you talking about? The building is on fire.
And in New Jersey, their current Democratic senator is currently on fire for accepting gold bars as a foreign agent for another country. Like, there's huge problems. So if you're going to run on corruption in the Republican Party, you might want to address Bob Menendez and the new foreign agent that we know of in the House of Representatives,
Cuellar,
also a Democrat. Yeah. And I think it was Azerbaijan he's a foreign agent for. So, like, you can't, like, all the
alleged,
things
alleged,
true.
On both cases, yeah.
But all the things that they would run on being like, because they've been running on this forever, look how bad the Republicans are. You can't come super close to being equally as bad and say that you are the savior. It doesn't work that way. You have to have morals. And right now, whether it's foreign policy or economics or green energy, because I know that my family is having issues because he just slapped a 50% tariff on Chinese solar panels, which, by the way, means solar panels because those are the only ones that fucking exist. We don't have an American industry to prop up. So it's like an 100% tariff on EVs from China. So he's doing things that, he's not Republican, but between the pipelines that he's allowing in Alaska and these tariffs on clean energy, like, you can't be Republican light and expect people to be excited about you. And it's just whatever issue you look at, the Democrats are doing this, corruption, trials, all of it. Like, Donald Trump's a criminal, but you have criminals in your ranks and you let them keep their power. Like, how can I say that you're better? I can't.
Jen, listen, on the tariff.
Oh, he's here.
Yeah, you gotta remember we can't let the Chinese subsidize solar panels. You see, we have to have American taxpayers subsidize solar panels. Can you imagine if the Chinese people tax themselves to make cheap solar panels for us to buy? That'd be crazy. Solar panels would be cheaper to buy. We can't have that. That's why we got to put tariffs on them to make them more expensive and have fewer, more expensive American solar panels in 10 or 15 years.
Which means fewer solar projects that are going to give us our clean energy.
That's
great
the
job,
craziest
Joe.
thing is that, I mean, and I don't want to shill for Trump here, but like his strategy with tariffs were slap tariffs on so I can walk into a room and negotiate how the tariffs go away if you do X, Y, or Z. It's like, I don't agree with it. I don't think that tariffs are necessarily a great idea, but at least I understand the logic that he's like, we don't have leverage. Let's create leverage so we can move this hard to negotiate with partner into better positions that are better for the United States. Like, I don't know what Biden's thing is here. Like, he's tough on China.
Biden has done this multiple times where he's got mutually exclusive policy goals that are counteracting each other. And the solar panels are a perfect example of that. Of we are going to fight climate change, but also we're going to put tariffs on imported cheap solar. Like these are a 1-to-1 ratio. You can't have both of them. There's been several things like this. Or like he's done this previously with solar stuff, where he'll say like we're going to give solar tax credits, but only for American-made solar panels. And you're like, why? It's like, so you're going to give tax credits, but only for more expensive stuff? Like, why? I think that Biden is doing two things. One, I think Biden thinks a lot more coalitionally than he thinks tactically or ideologically. And so when he's assembling his policies, he's looking at who are the seats at the table of our coalition that I have to make happy here. And that's a perfect example of, all right, we've got blue-collar workers that are in the manufacturing industry. We're the party of labor. We're going to put in some tariffs. But also we've got environmentalists. We really do care about climate change. So and the result is nothing. I think he's triangulating, going back to Gaza, where he's going.
You think?
I'm going to piss off a little bit of the pro-Israel people, and I'm going to piss off a little bit of the Gaza people, and I'm going to find a path through the middle. And this one's just not an issue that I think that going through the middle is going to be remotely useful to him on. It would be better for him electorally. I'm not making a statement here in terms of what we ought to do. I'm not making a moral statement, but just electorally, I think it would be a lot better for Biden to go, we're hardcore pro-Israel. Or even to go, that's it. We're going isolationist on this one. We're pulling
Stand
out.
for something.
I think, a thing. Instead, all they're going to do is send another representative from the State Department to Saudi Arabia, because now they're betting that either Riyadh or Hamas will save them. Because all they do is beg for Hamas to agree to deals that they have brokered, or hope that Riyadh will put together that the House of Saud, who, by the way, let's go back 4 years, Joe Biden campaigned on saying he would make the a pariah of the world because of Khashoggi. So the guy that you started off saying, I'm going to make you a pariah, right? Now he's begging them, oh, please, please, please make this big comprehensive deal with Israel, because then you'll help rebuild Gaza and blah, blah, blah. It's like, there's no leverage. There's no point. There's no, like, look, if you want to leverage Hamas, leverage Iran, leverage the Qataris. Don't go and just go into have Anthony Blinken, when he's not doing sets in Kyiv, go up to a microphone and say, like, Hamas really should take this deal. What the fuck? They're in a basement counting hostages. Like, there's no, you can't count on them, regardless of where you think these things are. It's just the dumbest policy.
Yeah. Yeah, one policy after another. Like, the triangulation, I think, is a really good way to put it, Andrew, because they're trying to please everyone, sort of, and they're pleasing absolutely no one.
And it doesn't work. Like, so when I was working on the Hill, I was a Blue Dog, so I was part of the Moderate Blue Dog Coalition. And a phrase that I heard occasionally that has been very accurate, and it's sad, because I'm temperamentally a moderate. I eschew the extremes generally, at least in terms of like rhetoric and emotion. But it's not safe. The middle's not safe. It's much better electorally to have your back guarded by your flank than to sit in the middle of the field and try to appeal to both. And and
it's
what
like
Biden's doing.
The number one thing, and I'm going to do fantasy foreign policy. The number one thing that you could do is say our foreign policy is guided entirely by the hostages, and so that is either your pathway to tell the Israelis, stop bombing, and we're going to send special forces to get our hostages out, or to go to Hamas and say, hey, you want us to negotiate a thing? All the Americans out tomorrow. And then we will put pressure on Israel, but the Americans got to be out immediately. Like, but they're not doing any of that. They're just relying on this conflict to play itself out, while the Rafah thing was so ridiculous. They say, we're not going to send these, we're going to halt these weapons. Okay, well, Israel has all the weapons they need for Rafah. You'd basically just be selling them the weapons that they're going to replace their supply with Rafah. So you're not really even doing anything, except triangulating is a disservice to the Clinton administration, who coined the term, because triangulation is supposed to work. It's supposed to give people things that they like. This only pissed off the Gaza protesters and the Israel people. So all it did, it was the reverse triangulation. It was a triangle that they
Ovulation?
shoved up their own asshole.
Tamping. Got it. Yes.
Yeah.
Back to that.
Yeah.
They butt chugged foreign policy.
Yep. And we get to watch
right.
him do it live in August during the riots. So
During the riots, we're not even going to say. We've been credentialed for the riots. It's not even the convention.
pretty much. Pretty much.
We're
I
not
am
wrong,
kind of
pod.
happy that I personally will have a badge that lets me into the area that is protected by Secret Service. That is one thing I am happy about.
No, we are going to get the all the color of the nervous people looking out the window or crowded around the television. That's what we're gonna get. Heaton, like the Panera Bread window, will be shattered on the street somewhere in Chicago.
First sign of the slightest amount of anger, I'm just going to steal TVs. Just throw a trash can through a window, grab a TV, get the fuck out. That's by the way, not because I want the TV. That's to blend in so that no one hits me.
I would imagine, based on your wardrobe, you would just say "Go Go Gadget legs" and walk your way out of downtown. We're not wrong pod at gmail.com is where you write into the show, giving you quintuple entendres. We're not wrong pod at gmail.com. A doctor writes, roundworms are actually fairly common and a parasite that typically comes from eating undercooked meat. Most commonly in the United States, it can be found in undercooked pork, but other meats as well, depending on the country in which you live. Not only can they get in your brain, they can get in other organs, including your retinas, liver, and spleen. Bon appetit. This, of course, in reference to RFK's brainworm.
I love it. I love that he told us that he has brainworms. I actually really appreciate
He did
the
not.
honesty.
He did not. He did not.
Well, he's making jokes about it, so he confirmed it at the very least.
Yes. The DNC, almost assuredly, leaked to the New York Times that there was a medical transcript that RFK told a doctor about it. But that was a classic DNC hit job.
Wait,
How
the
do they
initial-
have
hold on.
that information?
Yeah, it isn't that protected by HIPAA, et cetera, et cetera?
You would think.
Maybe. I don't know. Remember that time that 70 Kennedys came to the White House and endorsed Joe Biden? I wonder where family medical records would make their way to the DNC.
Yeah.
I wonder where.
Either way, his tweets about it are pretty damn funny, and I appreciate that his reaction to this would be like, "Oh, you want to make jokes about it? I'm gonna hit myself harder and first." Like,
Yeah.
I like the dude.
Brainworms are funny.
They
Democracy Under Assault writes, you like to talk about how everybody is separated into their camps, but in Germany, we've now had 2 cases within a few days of politicians being attacked and beaten. So do we feel superior to the Germans?
Always. No, I think that's
awful.
Olaf Scholz got the shit beaten out of him. I think he was Christian Democrats. I don't remember the party, but Olaf Scholz got like his occipital lobe and a cheekbone like smashed in by 4 17-year-old kids. That's terrible. Good luck, Germany. I am rooting for you. In a slightly less to be a little bit more sterile in looking at it. These stories are always very interesting to me, not because I'm worried I am, but they do kind of indicate a way for us to figure out what is actually happening. So, like, if violence is on the rise in Western Europe, then we can kind of pinpoint, okay, are the problems we're having in America a result of our electoral system? Would appear not. Is it we could this to me I think is further evidence that there's a lot of shit going down by virtue of social media, which is hitting all countries as opposed to just countries with similar economies to us or similar electoral systems. But hey, good luck. Don't hit anybody, Germany.
Not good for the world when Germany gets angry.
Yeah.
Green Text writes, I choose to believe that Jury is so knowledgeable about Gen Z slang because he, the internet troll that he is, spends time on 4chan, which means there's a non-zero chance that we've anonymously called each other awful slurs. I can neither confirm nor deny. On the Durbin Marshall credit card bill, Take the Points writes, if merchants get their way and have more transaction networks to choose from, it will likely decrease Visa MasterCard revenues. They will respond by cutting loyalty programs. They've already said they will. Without these bonuses, consumers will more likely use buy now, pay later schemes, which charge merchants a 3 to 6% transaction fee, double the rate of credit card interchange fees.
Be
Don't
afraid.
put Dick Durbin in charge of financial stuff.
Credit Card Insider writes, here's how the previous regulations impacted the industry in 2011. 2 unaffiliated networks must be on the card selected by the issuing bank. Prior to the Durbin Amendment, there were front-of-card networks, Visa, MasterCard, and back-of-card networks, Interlink, Maestro. The merchant chooses the network during the transaction. The payment method must be profitable for banks, affordable for merchants, and attractive to consumers, making success difficult. In 2011, interchange was capped for banks, leading acquirers to increase fees, affecting small merchants. Merchants are billed via simple or complex pricing, impacting savings and profit over time.
One of many unintended consequences of putting Dick Durbin in charge of anything financial. One of the other ones is that Dick Durbin is more responsible for bank consolidation than anybody else over the last 10 years. The regulations that he put in place had downriver effects more on small banks than large banks. The large banks bought the small banks. Good job, Dick Durbin.
Well, at least we haven't had a run of them failing.
Mm-hmm.
European credit holder writes, for what it's worth, European credit card rewards are absolute dog shit.
Succinct.
But they exist. So,
Which I
like
don't
said,
think, I don't
have
think
no
that's a
feelings.
terrible reward. Dog shit? No,
Yeah.
I'd rather not have a credit card. On Trains writes, why Brightline isn't going to L.A. The reason why it's stopping in Rancho Cucamonga instead of continuing all the way to the Union is that the tracks from Rancho Cucamonga to Union are owned by Metrolink rather than Brightline West or some other state rail agency. In the case of Brightline, since there isn't a state rail agency that controls the tracks from Rancho Cucamonga to Union, it's up to Metrolink to electrify, make trains run over the overhead canetary system, or OCS, like Brightline West will, or double track, i.e. change from having one set of rails to having 2, so trains can run in both directions. Now, the problem here is that Metrolink does not have a plan to electrify or double track the line, and they seem to be taking their sweet time as to coming up with one, and there's really nobody who can tell them that they have to do it. If I'm allowed to pontificate further, Metrolink is a severely underutilized system in part because nobody really gives a shit about it, meaning important projects that would meaningfully improve the lives of both the operator and the riders, such as, for instance, electrification on the link, or allowing trains to go through LA to Union Station, are mostly put on the back burner or disregarded entirely. It sucks.
Yeah, that checks out with me with Metrolink. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I wish that they cared more, had more money, and that users liked it. But I mean, I like I said, I'm the biggest train fan in the world, and when I go home, I only use it if I need to go to downtown because it doesn't go where I need to go. It doesn't go along with the highways. Like, I spend most of my time going up and down the 405, and there is no train. So I would take it if it went everywhere, but the hub and spoke system, it's not a good one. So what can you do?
No Rancho Cucamonga slander tolerated, writes, Rancho Cucamonga has a population of 175,000 and features many wonderful things to do, such as a 24-hour fitness and a Bass Pro Shop.
Oh, can't wait to see it.
Just when I thought LA couldn't get any better. I'll move back tomorrow.
Hyperloop is better than trains, writes, rail needs to be very flat and straight in order to run at high speeds. This is cost prohibitive in America for 2 reasons, eminent domain and labor. Standard train rail is placed on carefully graded earth and needs bridges, tunnels, and railroad crossings frequently in order to get around it. One way to reduce problems is pre-manufactured, self-supported sections of track placed on elevated pylons. This minimizes the effect of the land and decreases on-site labor.
I dig that. So we're talking about monorails? The trains of the future?
Yeah, Hyperloop was the Elon Musk backed idea that would essentially
Like a vacuum
use
tube.
Yeah.
like pneumatic tubes basically to fire people, and his idea was to put it on the 5 gen. So that was an example of using that land.
Yeah, makes sense to
Nice.
me. I mean, not the Hyperloop part, but yeah.
Road Revolution writes, when I worked for the local borough, population 700, we were constantly getting road repair requests for a pothole in a strip mall parking lot that people use as a shortcut to the highway. A small subset of the voting population could not understand why we didn't have an obligation, much less the authority, to just go over and fix private property that they all enjoyed exploiting. I almost quick patched it after business hours, but I had the cops called on me for doing an unfunded but still used public park that had been a bit weird around road repair ever since.
Yeah, I used to go through stop signs in empty parking lots, like it was a Mervin's parking lot. But people didn't realize that those are also kind of optional because if it's a private parking lot, there's no one that's going to enforce that stop sign. It's like putting a stop sign at the end of your driveway and expecting the cops to give a shit about it. Like it's in a private parking lot, it is just you can do whatever you want.
There used to be an Instagram account and a group of guys in Oakland called the Pothole Vigilantes that would go fix potholes by themselves late at night, and the city cracked down on them because that's a good use of the city. Yeah.
Why?
They're
so they
angels.
were fixing potholes for free?
They were fixing potholes for free, but it made the city look bad, and so the city didn't like them for that. And B, the city, it is technically public property, so you can't fuck with public property without the city saying that they could.
That's ridiculous.
So it was technically illegal, which is why they were anonymous.
Ugh, that's so dumb.
They should be given the death penalty. The city of Oakland was right.
Fuck trains, writes. Public transportation is popular if it comes to your front door like a limo driver on rails, or if you're a hobo with a knapsack. What Jen and all train people advocate for is a transportation technology regression that never goes as fast as they think it will, costs billions in taxpayer dollars and in bonds that are worth less than paper, and fundamentally handcuff the individual spirit from going wherever the fuck it wants, whenever the fuck it wants. If Brightline can stop killing people in Melbourne, Florida, and go faster than a plane, you have my attention. But it can't and they won't. As much as the new line is popular with the young family, the math is that it will cost less and take less time to drive than it would to take the Bright Line, regardless of which stations you use. So I'll drive. In summation, America's not Europe. Fuck trains, and while I'm at it, fuck soccer too.
Oh my God. The math from the guy with the free roads talking about the math of public transportation. Like that's rich. And this is an argument just for more traffic. So I hope you really like driving, because what you're saying is that people like me, you want me on the highway with you, hating every second of it and taking up space on your roads so you get everywhere you want to go a lot slower. Great argument. Love it.
I just want to comment on a literary capacity of that email. That was a really well-written email. like sir or madam, I endorse you to become Babbage for The Economist. Would start reading that magazine regularly again. That was succinct and funny. Please write it again.
No.
April in the D writes, recently in Detroit, which has comically bad public transit, they've added a slow rail system called the Q Line, which goes up and down Woodward Avenue from New Center through the University District to downtown. We all laughed about it and became annoyed that it was taking up a lane, but it does seem to actually be useful. During the NFL draft, I had friends who actually used it, as opposed to the Detroit People Mover, which is just as useful to public transit as the ride with the name at Magic Kingdom. I'm not sure what the legal requirements are for speed and safety and distance, but they didn't have to make any modifications to the size of the lanes or anything, as far as I know.
Love it. I'm
So
glad
there we
your friends
go.
are using
Detroit, Jen. That is your example.
It wasn't that funny, though, comparatively. That email, like, they didn't pick a fight with any Europeans. There wasn't anything about soccer in it. I mean, it was fine. It was fine. You just
The line that
could've
killed
reached for
me
the
in that
stars
previous
over there.
one is, if they can stop killing people in Melbourne, Florida.
I just can't find it funny because I hate his message so much.
Yeah.
It was obviously directed at me, and I hate cars, so fuck
No,
you too.
it's directed at trains.
Right.
Next up, Dreamland writes, this segment on trains was sublime. You have each refined your stances and points to such a state that when you bicker about public transit, it's essentially choreographed. If I were to compare it to anything, it would be a fight scene from one of Jackie Chan's earlier movies, probably Drunken Master. If I could, I would feed your transportation segments into an LLM and have it generate an endless genial argument about trains to fall asleep to each night.
Nice.
There
I
we
like
go.
the techno-optimism side of that email. It was a bit surreal. I like the Jackie Chan thing.
Revenue
Good job.
opportunity for the boys and girl. I'm just saying. And finally, Wyoming writes on trains. Hearing Lord Uncle Heaton call out Wyoming for our population size, 581,381 as of 2024, which we now know less people than Rancho Cucamonga. I was, and I'm very excited. Oh, wait, no, more than that.
No, that was
Sorry.
175.
Yeah, 175.
Yeah.
Turns out Florida doesn't have a great
And
public
I'll
education system.
Bet you Wyoming has a fucking Bass Pro Shop in it. I'll bet you that.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, definitely.
I was and am very excited to hear it. In the early days of the Wyoming Territory, we were made modern by the early rail system that I would believe, based on feelings, modern rail through Wyoming might bring more people and tourists to Wyoming as long as there are some stops to spread it out.
Oh, I would go to Wyoming all the time if there was a train there. That is a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous state. I wish that there was one that would just go to Yellowstone, because there's so many places. Like, if I could take a train up to Yellowstone, rent a little camper, fuck around for a few weeks, get back on a train, leave. Like, I would do it all the time. Like, I love Wyoming. I just don't like driving it.
Bringing us on home, Trust the Experts writes, citing Robert Reich on economics is like citing Lauren Boebert on theater etiquette.
Oh, for Christ's sake. He gave a stat that I remembered. Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
I think putting it in a less, I completely agree with that, but putting that in a less barbed capacity would be like saying, citing Robert Reich is perhaps like citing Thomas Sowell or someone like that, who is a very clear...
No, get the visuals of Robert Reich ripping vapes and grabbing hogs. I feel like that's...
100% endorse this one. Good job. Good job. Go hang out with a fun person from Florida. This is funny. This
Karaoke
is good emails
tips.
this week.
Right. You've mentioned having karaoke parties in the past, and the Yankee Doodle Panther having several karaoke outfits. What are your Heaton? What are your go-to songs and for baritones who cannot reach notes that they cannot hit?
Great question. One of the injustices of life is how many good karaoke songs are in the tenor range but not the baritone range. But I'm here to help you. The three artists that you can rely on are Johnny Cash, Neil Diamond, and Elton John. You wouldn't think Elton John, but Elton John, totally hittable from a baritone perspective. So those are the three go-tos for me. My favorite, and I realize that it's a little bit blasé at this point, I love Sweet Caroline. It's a fun song to do in a karaoke environment, perhaps overdone, but for a reason.
And I'm surprised you didn't say it, because you nailed Creep when we went to Egos.
Yeah.
You
Here's
it.
Thank you. Yeah, so listener, do Creep. And like if you do it reasonably well, it's gonna be hard to hit that high note. But if you pull it off, like there was a moment where you probably even saw it in my eyes of the fear of, can I hit this high note? And then somehow sucked a testicle into my body and was able to just barely tap that high note and then finish it to massive applause.
Yeah, it was awesome. The
if
crowd
you
got
want to
behind you, which helped,
Yes.
I think. If you have a song that the crowd likes, then it hides some of the notes that you can't hit. So pick a popular one, not one that you like, one that the crowd likes. You have to play to the crowd.
If you want to cosplay as Andrew Heaton singing karaoke, you need to sing Wagon Wheel.
Yeah.
And then be surprised that Darius Rucker was the lead singer of Hootie and the Blowfish, and then further surprised that Darius Rucker's black. That is the greatest karaoke moment maybe in the history of that room, and it was Andrew Heaton with a double revelation after singing Wagon Wheel.
There's a photo of me like collapsing in joy onto Justin's shoulder after having experienced the magic of childhood in my late 30s once again.
And bringing us on home, blimps are boats, right? They dock in places like the Empire State Building and other tall buildings. I remember seeing old photos of blimps docking places and thinking that we got robbed of the steampunk existence that they sold me in Immortal Engines.
How did they land
Agreed.
on water? Like, I don't understand, because
they're like airships. They're like floating
airships.
boats.
Yeah.
I know, but like the only blimps I've seen that carry people have the people on the bottom of it. So wouldn't the people be underwater?
No. They're docking in the air, like it on the top of the Empire State Building. So that's where they're docking.
There's
so
actually
you would take
port on the Empire State Building.
Yeah, so you would take the elevator all the way to the top of the Empire State Building and then board your boat, the blimp, from the top and then go somewhere else.
Okay, so that's rad, and we need to bring that back. The Biden administration should run on bringing that back, and then I will vote for that decrepit old man.
We're bringing back blimps.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the Empire,
Three words, folks.
State.
Bring back blimps.
Yes.
Make America's blimps float again. No,
We need to work
bring
on
back
that.
blimps sounds better.
bring
Yeah,
black-
BBB.
Bring back blimps.
Bring black blimps could work too.
Why not? He's got a coalition to maintain. Bring black blimps. All right. We're Not Wrong is a production of Dog and Pony Show Audio. Our editor is Will Saddleberg. If you want a bigger deep dive into those New York Times polls, I have one of our favorite polling data experts, Evan Scrimshaw, on our show Wednesday. And then Friday, I'm going to do a bigger deep dive into the ramifications of the debate stuff. And an AMA. I got a little AMA on Friday, so that's going to be fun. Heaton.
I am bringing on Dr. Rainier Zeidelman. He's a economic historian, and I'm going to call him an economist, although I don't think he would say that. He just wrote a book on how nations come out of poverty, looking at specific countries that were in the same place economically, educationally, resource-wise, et cetera, and why some countries are able to accelerate and get people out of poverty and some can't. So it's an interesting episode on how to alleviate suffering through economics.
Cool.
Jen
is still working on the Palestine episode because every time I think I'm done with this thing, new shit comes to light. So I don't know when I'm going to be done with it. That's what I'm working on. Hold your horses. I'll be done when I'm done.
Well, maybe Anthony Blinken can find out in Riyadh. Maybe the 7th time that he goes there, it'll be different.
Yeah.
All right, that wraps it up for us. For Andrew Heaton and Jen Briney, I'm Justin Robert Young, reminding you that we're not wrong.
I got to piss like a 5-legged racehorse. I'll be right back.
Hot.